So, you may have heard about the California Dream program and are wondering, is this a program that you can benefit from? And that's what our call is going to go over today. We're going to do a high overview of the program, the information that we have. It's not going to be out until spring, but stay all the way through and watch all of the different requirements to see if this is something that might be an option for you. The California Dream for All program is a down payment assistance program in California. And this program is designed to help people that can not normally qualify for a home be in a position to also have home ownership. So there's a couple highlights that we're going to look at and that we're going to walk through on here that are going to be really important for you to understand, because I find a lot of people are interested in the program and just don't have all the information to make an educated decision if this is something that's going to qualify for you. So there's a couple of things that we need to look at first. This is a program that will give you 20% of the sales price or appraised value, whichever is less, or 150,000, whichever is less. So it's going to go off of either of those. It does say that you cannot put more than 5% down of your own funds. The last time this was available and then we had run out of funds, there was a lot of people that had a lot of money that they can invest, that they wanted to invest in addition to the 20% down. Maybe it was gift from family, or they sold, or they had funds from a different area, or inheritance money. That is no longer allowed. So you can only put 5% of your own funds towards the down payment and only 5% of your own funds towards closing cost. So there are some maximums that we have to look at as well. This program is a first loan, and then that 20% or 150,000, whichever is less, is going to be a silent second loan that has to be paid back whenever you sell, refinance, or when the loan pays off in 30 years. So it's not free money. It is money that has to be paid back. There are some requirements as far as your debt to income ratio and credit score that we'd have to make sure you qualify for. And non-occupant co-borrowers are not allowed. A non-occupant co-borrower or co-signer just means somebody that's not going to be living in the property with you that you would like to be on the application to maybe help you qualify. So that is not going to be something that is eligible for this property. It does have to be an owner occupied, meaning you're going to live in the property, and manufactured homes that qualify are okay. It does require a 1-year home warranty. You do have to be a first-time home buyer. It's a little bit different than the normal definition for first-time home buyer. That's 3 years, meaning that you couldn't have been on title of another home for 3 years. This one is 7. So it means that the borrower has not had ownership in a home in the United States in the last 7 years. And this is the new update. And to the best of you, the buyer's knowledge, the borrower's parents do not or did not at the time of their death have any ownership interest in the residence in the United States. Or if they grew up in foster care, then you would also qualify. Now, this is really important that you understand this one, because they do go through an audit and verification process, and you do have to attest under penalty of perjury that that is correct, that your parents do not own any property, nor have they ever owned any property. You are a first generation home buyer. Now, there are things that they're going to be auditing that they have access to, such as, maybe on a college, you had, claimed that you were a dependent under somebody that owned a home, tax returns. There's a lot that they do under that audit. So you want to make sure that that is correct. Now, one borrower must be a California resident, and all borrowers must be a first-time home buyer. So it's not just one. All borrowers, anybody that's going to be on the loan, has to be a first-time home buyer. As far as the process, if you qualify under those parameters, now you have to meet with myself as a loan officer. We have to go through a pre-qualification, make sure that you meet those qualifications, and then I have to submit you through the program as a pre-registration. So we go through a pre-registration process in the portal, and then we have to go through what's called a lottery, which means that you go through the registration, confirm that you qualify, and then once we have the CalHFA down payment pre-approval from me uploaded into their system, then if you are picked and if you are chosen through the lottery, then you get a voucher for a specific amount of time that you have to be in contract to purchase a home. So what's good about it this time versus last time is it was kind of a free-for-all for everybody. So even though this has to go through a process and you have to be selected, the good news is you don't go look for a property until you've been selected, and then you have a certain amount of time for you to find a property. It hasn't been released how much time for sure that we're going to be allotted in order to find a property. Once we get more information on that, we'll share the updates. Now, with this, there is some home education that you have to do, so we want to make sure you do that right away. So the process, if this is something you're not interested in, you're going to reach out. We're going to go through the initial pre-approval. We're going to get you to do the education up front so that that's not delayed. And then once it opens in the portal, which is supposed to be sometime spring, then I will be able to go in, put you in the portal, we'll apply for the voucher, and then you'll go in the lottery system. So there is some pre-work that needs to be done. We'll see if you qualify based on the parameters that they provided. And if you do, then at that point, we will have you do the education. And we'll walk through that as well as what you need to do, where to go, and all that good stuff. So now you see borrowers initially qualify based on current address. Now, this is really important to understand. Now, whatever county you live in, what they're doing is they're giving so much funds per county. So that means if you are in Sacramento County, you will go into the lottery system for how much money has been allotted for Sacramento County. Now, you can purchase in a different county, so you don't have to purchase in Sacramento County. You could purchase in any county, but you have to qualify within the county, and those funds that have been set aside for the county that you live in is what it's going to go off of your current address. You have to maintain your credit score, obviously your debt to income, and still qualify. So all the way through you purchasing at the pre-qual, all the way through, we have to make sure that you still are qualified at the time that you are purchasing. Shared appreciation. So this is where I want to make sure you understand how this program works. So we talked about the 20% or $150,000, whichever is less, that you're going to get to use towards the purchase. So that means, just for an example, to keep it simple, if you purchased a home for $100,000, then that means that you would get $20,000 as a down payment, and now your loan is only $80,000 for that first mortgage if we use that 20% towards the down payment. And then the 20%, which is the $20,000, that would be a silent loan, meaning you have to pay it back at some point based on the parameters that we talked about, but it wouldn't be a loan that you're paying on. So you don't have to make any monthly payments on it. Now, there's the additional requirement, which is called shared appreciation. So what that says is not only when you sell or refinance, which means pay this loan off, you have to pay back that 20%. You also have to pay back part of the appreciation, which is how much the home value goes up over time. So at the time that you sell, transfer, or get a new loan, whatever the value is at that time versus what you purchased it for, the difference is your appreciation. So you have to pay back 20%. If they're giving you 20% down, you're paying back 20% of that appreciation, or as you can see here, it's capped at 2.5 times the original principal amount. So there is a cap of how much money that you have to share if you end up having this property long-term. But if you were to sell the home in 5-10 years, you're going to pay back the original 20% or $150,000 that you got plus 20% of the appreciation that you have on there. So let's walk through what that looks like, because I know it can be a little complicated. So let's say you purchase a home at $500,000, and let's say that you use that $100,000 for the down payment. You use here, which is your Dream for All loan. $100,000 is that 20%, and your mortgage is $400,000. And let's say 5 years later, that home is now worth $640,000. That means the home appreciated from $500,000 to $640,000, $140,000. So that means that the shared appreciation that you get to keep is $112,000, and the shared appreciation that you have to give back to CalHFA is $28,000, because 20% is $28,000, and then you also have to pay back that $100,000 loan. So when you sell this home at $640,000, you're paying back the $100,000 and you're paying back the $28,000 in the shared appreciation. So what that means is that you're paying back that $128,000, right? $128,000. You get $142,000 because you have your shared appreciation plus how much you paid down your first mortgage, which is $30,000. So now when you sell the home, you get to take your $142,000 and be able to use that into the next home, assuming, all costs and all that you're going to be paying for the cost to sell the home. So that's how it works as far as the shared appreciation goes. It's going to be a determining factor of how much money it appreciates. So the idea of this is that you get to buy your home. It moves you into the next home. So you get to use your money to be able to, move to the next home. And then whatever funds that they get back, which is that 20% plus the appreciation, then goes into a fund to help future homeowners. So again, we do have, the shared appreciation of how that works. It's capped at 2.5. So if the original shared appreciation loan in this example we looked at 100,000, right, was their loan times 2.5%, then that means that you wouldn't have to pay more back than 250,000 for that shared appreciation. So there's a little bit of a calculation that goes into it. So just know that if you use this program, it's great. It helps you get into the home if you can't otherwise be able to afford a home. But you do have to pay back that 20% as well as part of the future appreciation, depending on when you're in a position to be able to sell or refinance. It does take you obviously out of the bucket to be able to refinance. We don't know what the rates look like yet. We won't know until it's available, but it would take some time before you're in a position to be able to get a new loan because you have to have appreciated enough to be able to pay back the 20% and the appreciation. So this is a long-term financing loan that you would have if you take advantage of it. So things that you should consider: deferred payments. So it does lower your monthly payment because, again, you're not having to make any payments on that second. And it could reduce the mortgage insurance if we use that full 20% towards the down payment. And then, of course, some things that you got to consider is that the repayment amount's really going to depend on appreciation. So if homes appreciate, it's going to take longer for you to be able to stay in that home and get a new loan if interest rates drop. Or if you sell, then you're going to be paying back, whatever that part of the appreciation is. So it really is suitable for long-term home ownership. So like I said, I think that it's really good to consider this program if you have no other options. But if you can qualify for some of our other down payment assistance options where you don't have to share appreciation and you're not committed to having to be in the loan long-term, those might be things that we should consider first, and then use this as a additional option if needed. So things that, as far as it being long-term is if the home declines, you still owe the principal amount. So that $100,000 you still have to pay back. But if it declined, then you don't have to share, obviously in the appreciation because it didn't appreciate. Not that I see that happening, especially the direction that we're going. But if you stay in the home, you're not going to be paying any interest on that shared appreciation amount. So it is, again, a long-term cycle that you want to look at. There are some income restrictions. So we have to look at county, as I had said. So this is going to be based on the county that you purchase in. So if you were to purchase in Sacramento County, that means all applicants on the loan and all income cannot exceed $180,000. So they actually did really good at keeping the income limits pretty high to allow more people to be able to afford this program.